Imagine, you're walking into work, coffee in hand, mentally ticking off the tasks you've planned for the day. Then, without warning, your manager calls you in. "We need to let you go." No explanation. No chance to defend yourself. Just like that, the job you've poured years of effort into is gone. That's exactly what happened to Maria Johnson, a promising and hard-working manager at Tesla. She wasn't just any employee. Maria Johnson was known for her innovative ideas, late-night problem-solving, and her ability to inspire her team. Yet, on an ordinary morning, everything she had built came crashing down. Fired. No one would say why. Standing outside the office she used to call her second home, Maria Johnson felt her world unraveling. The questions wouldn't stop racing through her mind. Was it a mistake? A misunderstanding? Or something she couldn't see coming? While doubt and frustration clawed at her, what Maria Johnson didn't know was that her story wasn't over, not by a long shot. In a twist no one expected, Maria Johnson's situation caught the attention of none other than Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Known for his sharp decisions and unorthodox methods, Musk didn't just ignore the situation. He acted. What he did next sent shockwaves through the company and transformed Sarah's life in ways she couldn't have dreamed of. This isn't just a story about losing a job, it's about resilience, justice, and an extraordinary moment that flipped the script. Stay with us as we unravel what really happened, why Elon Musk got involved, and how Maria Johnson's darkest day became the start of something incredible. This story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about setbacks and comebacks. Maria Johnson's life was anything but easy, but that never stopped her from dreaming big. Born and raised in a small town, Maria learned the value of hard work early on. Her parents worked long hours to make ends meet, and while they provided for her and her siblings, there was little room for extras. Maria knew if she wanted a different future, she'd have to create it herself. Even as a child, Maria was driven. While others played after school, she was buried in books, determined to escape the financial struggles that weighed on her family. One day, she told herself, "I'll build something better for all of us." That determination carried her through high school, into college, and finally into a career that seemed almost out of reach, a position at Tesla. Getting that job wasn't easy. Maria applied 3 times before she was hired. Each rejection pushed her to improve, to sharpen her skills, and to prove that she had what it took to thrive in a demanding environment. When the offer finally came, it felt like a dream, a chance to work for a company she'd always admired. But Maria soon realized that dreams often come with their own set of challenges. The climb to success. Maria's days were relentless. She was the first to arrive at the office and often the last to leave. Her weekends disappeared into projects, and her phone buzzed with work emails even during family dinners. Success came with a price. Long hours, mounting stress, and a growing distance from the people she cared about most. On top of that, Maria was one of the few black women in a leadership position at Tesla, which brought its own unique pressures. She often felt like she had to work twice as hard to prove her worth. Her every decision was scrutinized, every success questioned. It was exhausting, but Maria didn't back down. She believed that her presence in that role mattered, not just for herself but for others who might one day follow in her footsteps. Her family was her anchor. Her mom, ever her cheerleader, would call after particularly tough days. "You're stronger than this," her mom would say. "You've come too far to stop now." Those words helped, but they couldn't always erase the self-doubt that crept in during the quiet moments. Was she truly making an impact, or was she just spinning her wheels in a system that would never change? The weight of expectations. Maria also carried financial burdens that kept her awake at night. Student loans loomed over her, and living in an expensive city meant constant juggling of bills. She dreamed of buying her own home, but that goal felt farther away with each passing month. The weight of these responsibilities, combined with the pressure at work, began to chip away at her once steady confidence. Still, Maria stayed true to her values. She believed in fairness, collaboration, and lifting others up. When a colleague struggled, Maria was the first to offer help. When her team needed motivation, she reminded them why their work mattered. She wasn't just working for a paycheck, she wanted to create a legacy. A quiet resolve. Despite the hardships, Maria held on to hope. She knew every setback was temporary, every challenge an opportunity to learn. Her resilience became her armor, shielding her from the doubts that threatened to derail her. She reminded herself that her struggles weren't just for her own success. They were paving the way for others who looked like her, who faced the same uphill battles, and who needed to see that achieving greatness was possible. Maria didn't know it yet, but her strength and persistence would soon be tested like never before. The obstacles ahead would push her to her limits, but they would also reveal a side of her she hadn't yet discovered. This wasn't just the story of her career, it was the beginning of a transformation that would inspire everyone around her. The notification pinged in Maria's inbox, breaking the quiet hum of her office. She clicked on it, expecting routine updates. Instead, the subject line alone made her stomach twist. Project proposal review. Maria took a steadying breath and opened the email. Maria, we've reviewed your latest project proposal. Unfortunately, we've decided to go in a different direction. Your idea is solid, but it doesn't align with the current priorities. Keep pushing, but we need to see more from you moving forward. She read the message twice, the words blurring together as her chest tightened. Months of effort, early mornings, late nights, missed birthdays with her nieces, had gone into that proposal. It wasn't just a project. It was her way of showing she belonged in a room that often felt just out of reach. And now it was dismissed with a few sterile sentences. Maria leaned back in her chair, her fingers trembling as they brushed her temple. The walls of her small office felt like they were closing in. This wasn't just another no, it felt like an indictment, a silent judgment whispering, "You're not good enough." Her pulse quickened. Was this a failure of the idea or of her? Maybe she wasn't cut out for Tesla's fast-paced, high-pressure world. Maybe the whispers she occasionally overheard about being a diversity hire held some truth. No, she muttered under her breath, shaking her head. But the doubts clawed their way back. Her achievements suddenly seemed smaller, overshadowed by this rejection. She had worked so hard to be here, one of the few black women in a leadership role. Yet moments like this reminded her how precarious her position felt. The struggle to regain balance. Her phone buzzed, startling her. A text from her mom lit up the screen. "Keep going, baby girl. You've overcome so much. Proud of you always." Maria clenched her jaw, her mother's encouragement a bittersweet reminder of why she'd fought so hard to get here. She couldn't let this setback define her, but right now, it felt like she was fighting a losing battle. Against the expectations, against the unspoken judgments, and most of all, against herself. A knock at the door broke her spiraling thoughts. "Maria?" Jake, a senior colleague with a knack for reading the room, stepped in. His kind expression didn't quite erase the embarrassment Maria felt at being caught in a vulnerable moment. "What's up?" she said, masking her frustration. Jake hesitated, glancing at her screen before speaking. "I saw the email. Thought you might want to talk." Maria straightened in her chair, her defense mechanisms kicking in. "It's fine. Just another learning moment, right?" "Maria," Jake said, sitting down across from her, "I've been here long enough to know that the best ideas don't always get greenlit right away. This doesn't mean your work isn't valuable." She wanted to believe him, but the sting was too fresh. "It's not just the proposal, Jake. It's everything. It feels like no matter how hard I work, it's never enough." Jake leaned forward, his voice soft but firm. "You're one of the most dedicated people I've worked with. And you've brought perspectives to the table that no one else could. Don't let this setback make you forget that." His words hit a nerve. Maria nodded but stayed silent, pushing through the pain. After Jake left, Maria sat alone in the quiet office, replaying his words. She wanted to believe she was making a difference, but the weight of her disappointment lingered. Finally, she turned back to her laptop. She stared at the email, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Her first instinct was to write a defensive reply, listing all the reasons her proposal mattered. But then she stopped. Instead, she opened a blank document and began typing. The words came slowly at first but picked up as she went. She outlined her vision in sharper detail, addressing the feedback directly while doubling down on what she believed made her idea strong. She wasn't just defending her work, she was refining it, proving to herself and to them that she wasn't done yet. By the time she finished, her shoulders felt lighter. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. She hit save, closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. Maria knew the road ahead wouldn't get easier. But as she sat there, staring out the window, she realized something important. Resilience wasn't about never doubting yourself, it was about what you did after the doubt set in. Tomorrow she'd present her revised plan. And whether or not it succeeded, she was determined to keep fighting, one step at a time. This wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. Act of kindness, lifting someone else's weight. The rejection email still lingered in Maria's mind, a nagging reminder of the uphill battle she was fighting. She had buried herself in work since then, using her tasks to drown out the doubts. It worked mostly. But some days the weight of it all still pressed down on her. One late afternoon as she packed up to leave, a soft knock broke her focus. She glanced up to see Lily, one of the junior engineers on her team, standing in the doorway. The young woman looked nervous, her hands clutching a binder tightly against her chest. "Maria? Do you have a minute?" Lily's voice was tentative, almost apologetic. Maria hesitated, exhaustion tugging at her, but she nodded. "Of course, come in." Lily stepped inside and closed the door behind her. She perched on the edge of the chair, her posture stiff. Maria could sense that whatever was on her mind wasn't trivial. Lily started, but her voice faltered. She took a deep breath and tried again. "I'm struggling. With the project. With everything. I keep messing up and it's making me feel like I don't belong here." The words hit Maria harder than she expected. She saw herself reflected in Lily's eyes, the uncertainty, the self-doubt, the fear of not being enough. It was a feeling Maria knew all too well, and hearing it from Lily stirred something in her. Maria leaned back in her chair, choosing her words carefully. "Lily, I know exactly how you feel. Trust me, we've all been there." She paused, her voice softening. "Do you know how many times I've sat right here thinking the same thing? Wondering if I was good enough? If I belonged?" Lily looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected someone like Maria to admit to struggling. "Really? Really?" Maria said firmly. "And let me tell you something. Those feelings don't mean you're not capable. They just mean you care. You're pushing yourself and that's uncomfortable. But that's also where growth happens. What if I fail?" Lily nodded slightly, but the doubt in her eyes remained. "But what if I fail? What if I mess up so badly that it proves I shouldn't be here?" Maria stood up and walked over to the window, gazing out at the skyline as she gathered her thoughts. She remembered her own moments of doubt, how rejection and setbacks had felt like the end of the world. But she had learned that they weren't. They were just detours. Turning back to Lily, Maria spoke with conviction. "Failure isn't the opposite of success, Lily. It's part of it. You're going to stumble and that's okay. What matters is how you get back up." She sat back down, meeting Lily's gaze. "You're here for a reason. Tesla doesn't keep people around who don't contribute. And from where I'm sitting, you're doing a damn good job. You just need to trust yourself." Lily's lip trembled as she held back tears. "But what if I don't trust myself yet?" Maria smiled gently. "Then trust me. I see your potential even if you don't right now. And until you do, I'll be here to remind you of it." A moment of connection. For a moment, the office was silent. Then Lily wiped her eyes and sat up straighter, a small but genuine smile breaking through her uncertainty. "Thank you, Maria. I needed to hear that." Maria nodded. "Anytime. Seriously. Don't ever hesitate to come talk to me. We're a team and teams look out for each other." As Lily left the office, Maria felt something shift inside her. The weight of her own struggles hadn't disappeared, but helping Lily had lightened it. She realized that her value wasn't just in her own achievements, it was in how she supported those around her. Leading through kindness. Maria sat back at her desk, her mind clearer than it had been in days. She thought about the moments in her career that had shaped her, not the promotions or the praise, but the times when someone had believed in her, even when she hadn't believed in herself. Now it was her turn to be that person for others. In helping Lily, Maria saw the bigger picture. Leadership wasn't just about hitting goals or earning recognition. It was about lifting others when they needed it most, showing them their own strength. And in doing so, she reminded herself of hers. The rejection email no longer felt like a failure. It was just another step in the journey. Maria wasn't going to let it define her. She had work to do, not just for herself, but for the people who needed her to lead with compassion and courage. Moment of doubt, confronting inner struggles. The office was silent, save for the rhythmic hum of the air conditioning and the occasional ping of emails hitting Maria's inbox. The conversation with Lily had left her feeling warm, even hopeful, but now, days later, the self-doubt had returned with a vengeance. It wasn't the kind of doubt that shouted, it whispered, creeping in during quiet moments. Like now, as she glanced at the clock on her desk, its steady ticking a reminder of time slipping away. She had spent hours in back-to-back meetings, reviewing projects, answering questions, offering solutions. From the outside, she probably looked like a capable leader. But inside, she felt like she was barely holding on. The weight of expectations. Maria swiveled her chair to face the window. The city was bathed in the soft hues of an evening sunset, warm golds and rich purples blending into the horizon. Normally, this would be her favorite time of day, a brief pause before the demands of tomorrow began. But tonight, the beauty outside only magnified the restlessness in her chest. She thought back to the rejection email. The words weren't harsh, but they were final. Her proposal wasn't aligned with the company's goals, they'd said. But what stung more than the rejection was the sense of failure. It wasn't just a project, it was a piece of her, an idea she had nurtured and believed in. Is this really it? She muttered under her breath. Is this what success is supposed to feel like? Her desk was littered with reports, sticky notes reminding her of deadlines and half-finished documents waiting for her attention. The chaos felt symbolic, a reflection of her mind. No matter how much she accomplished, it never felt like enough. A quiet storm of doubt. She closed her eyes, leaning back in her chair. The words she had told Lily replayed in her mind. Failure is part of the process. It doesn't define you. They had felt true when she said them. She wanted Lily to believe that, to see her potential. But did she believe it for herself? Maria's chest tightened at the thought. How could she inspire confidence in others when she was grappling with her own sense of inadequacy? The fear of being exposed as someone who didn't have all the answers loomed large. She had spent so long trying to prove herself, not just to her colleagues but to herself. The pressure was relentless. As a woman in leadership and one of the few black women in her field, she felt the unspoken expectation to be exceptional at all times. Any misstep felt magnified, as if the world was waiting for her to fail. Choosing honesty over perfection. Maria turned back to her desk, her gaze landing on a photo of her family tucked into the corner of her monitor. Her mother's smile radiated strength, her father's eyes full of pride. They had taught her the value of resilience, of pushing forward even when the odds were stacked against her. But they had also taught her something else, the importance of authenticity. Her parents had always emphasized that being strong didn't mean pretending everything was fine. Real strength came from facing challenges head-on, even when they felt overwhelming. She let out a long breath. Maybe she didn't need to have it all figured out. Maybe it was okay to admit that she was struggling. After all, wasn't that what she had encouraged Lily to do? Maria reached for a notebook on her desk, flipping to a fresh page. She wrote at the top, "What I'm afraid of." Slowly, she began listing the fears swirling in her mind. Failing. Letting people down. Not being good enough. As the words poured out, she felt a surprising sense of relief. Naming her fears made them feel less daunting. They weren't insurmountable, they were challenges to be tackled one by one, moving forward one step at a time. By the time she set her pen down, the skyline had darkened, the city lights twinkling against the night sky. Maria felt lighter, her thoughts clearer. The doubts were still there, but they no longer felt all-consuming. She stood, stretching the tension from her shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, and there would be more moments like this. Moments where the weight of expectation threatened to pull her down. But she was learning that it was okay to pause, to reflect, and to ask for help when she needed it. Maria glanced at her reflection in the window, her expression calm but resolute. She didn't have all the answers, but she didn't need them. All she needed was the courage to keep moving forward. As she gathered her things to leave, she thought about the advice she had given Lily. It wasn't just meant for the young engineer, it was for herself too. Failure doesn't define you. Keep going. And so she would. One step at a time. The unexpected phone call came in the middle of a busy afternoon, catching Maria off guard. She'd been working non-stop, her mind absorbed in a project she had been struggling to finish. It was a familiar number, one she hadn't seen in weeks. Tentatively she picked up. "Maria, it's Matt," the voice on the other end said. "I know it's been a while, but I need to talk to you about something important." Her heart skipped a beat. Matt, her old mentor and one of the few people she truly trusted in her career. He had been a guiding light when she first entered the industry, offering advice and support when Maria was just starting to figure things out. But after a falling out over a project a year ago, they had drifted apart. "Matt?" she responded, a mix of surprise and wariness in her voice. "What's going on?" "I've been keeping an eye on your work," Matt said. "You've been doing some incredible things lately. You've really grown, Maria. And I think it's time we talked about a new opportunity." Maria's pulse quickened. Opportunity? She had been struggling for so long, feeling as though she was treading water, barely keeping her head above the surface. Was this what she had been waiting for? "What kind of opportunity?" she asked, keeping her voice steady despite the flutter of hope that was starting to build in her chest. "There's a major project coming up. Something big," Matt continued. "And I think you're the perfect person to lead it." Maria blinked, unable to fully process what he was saying. "Led a project? What?" She had just spent weeks questioning her ability to lead anything. Her doubts still lingered, but the idea of this new challenge was too enticing to ignore. "I don't know," Maria hesitated. "I've been feeling pretty uncertain lately, Matt. I'm not sure if I'm the right fit." Matt chuckled softly on the other end. "That's exactly why I think you're perfect for it. You've been through the fire, Maria. You know what it's like to struggle and doubt yourself. But that's what makes you real. People will trust you not because you have all the answers, but because you've been where they are. His words hit Maria hard. She had spent so much time pretending to have it all figured out, hiding her doubts behind a mask of confidence. But Matt was right. Maybe the most important thing she could offer wasn't a perfect solution but her authenticity. Okay, Maria said after a long pause, her voice firm with a new sense of resolve. I'm in. What do I need to do? Great, Matt said, his tone filled with warmth. I knew you'd say yes. I'll send you the details. Get ready, Maria. This is going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. As she hung up the phone, Maria sat back in her chair, her mind racing. The doubts that had once consumed her began to fade. This was the twist she hadn't seen coming. The chance to prove not just to others but to herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. The path ahead was uncertain, yes. But now, with this new opportunity, Maria realized that she didn't have to have everything figured out to move forward. She just had to keep trusting herself even when the road seemed unclear. This moment wasn't just a twist in her story, it was a turning point. Maria's journey had shifted, and for the first time in a long while, she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Resolution and transformation, Maria's journey to self-discovery. The weeks following Maria's call with Matt were anything but easy. At first, the familiar doubts crept back in, the whispers of inadequacy that had followed her for years. But this time something felt different. She had made a commitment not just to the project but to herself. With every challenge she faced, she began stepping into a version of herself that was more confident and determined than she had ever imagined. Facing the pressure head-on. The project was relentless. Late nights bled into early mornings, and her calendar was a sea of meetings and deadlines. Some days felt like an uphill climb with no end in sight. Maria's doubts resurfaced during those moments of exhaustion, but instead of letting them control her, she pushed through. A pivotal moment came during a high-stakes pitch to a major client. The room was tense, and Maria's nerves threatened to get the best of her. But as she stood in front of the group, she reminded herself of Matt's words. People will trust you because you're real. She spoke with honesty and clarity, sharing not just her vision but the challenges and risks involved. The pitch was a success, but more importantly, it marked a shift in Maria's mindset. She realized she didn't need to have all the answers. She just needed to be present, ask the right questions and trust her instincts. Earning trust through vulnerability. As Maria's confidence grew, so did the trust of her team. They began to look to her not just for direction but for inspiration. Her openness about her own struggles encouraged them to be more honest about their challenges, fostering a culture of collaboration and mutual respect. One of her team members, a junior analyst named Sophie, approached her after a meeting one day. Maria, I just wanted to say thank you, Sophie said. You've shown me that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from them. I used to be terrified of speaking up, but now I feel like my voice matters. Maria smiled, her heart swelling with pride. She hadn't just grown as a leader, she was helping others grow too. A shift at home. The transformation didn't stop at work. At home, Maria's relationships began to change. She was more present with her family, less weighed down by the constant pressure she used to carry. Her mother, who had often worried about Maria's stress, noticed the difference immediately. You seem lighter, her mother said one evening over dinner. I don't know what's changed, but it's like you're finally comfortable in your own skin. Those words stayed with Maria. For years, she had been chasing an ideal version of herself, always feeling like she fell short. But now she was learning to accept herself as she was, flaws and all. The ripple effect of authentic leadership. As the project neared completion, the results spoke for themselves. The initiative not only met but exceeded expectations, earning praise from stakeholders across the board. But for Maria, the true success lay in the ripple effect her journey had created. Her team had grown stronger, more resilient, and more united. Her authenticity had inspired them to take risks and trust their instincts, just as she had learned to trust her own. One colleague summed it up perfectly during a celebratory toast. Maria, you didn't just lead this project, you led us. And you did it by showing us that it's okay to be human. Embracing the transformation. As Maria reflected on the journey, she realized her transformation wasn't about erasing her doubts or becoming someone entirely new. It was about accepting herself, imperfections and all, and finding strength in vulnerability. Her story wasn't just about overcoming obstacles, it was about the quiet, powerful shift that happens when you stop running from fear and start embracing it as part of the process. In her journal that evening, Maria wrote a simple but profound thought. I don't need to have it all figured out. I just need to keep moving forward, one step at a time. Maria's journey had come full circle. She wasn't the same person who had doubted herself at every turn. She was someone who could face challenges with courage, knowing that growth was in the journey, not the destination. And as she looked to the future, Maria felt ready, not because she had all the answers, but because she finally understood that she didn't need them. All she needed was the courage to keep going. Closure, a new chapter for Maria. The late afternoon air was crisp and refreshing as Maria sat on her small balcony, cradling a warm cup of tea. The city skyline stretched before her, bathed in hues of orange and pink as the sun began its slow descent. On the table lay a folder, neatly organized, filled with notes and ideas for her next big project. This time there was no hesitation, no lingering doubt. Instead, Maria felt a calm, steady excitement, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. She wasn't weighed down by the fear of failure. She was ready. A message of recognition. Her phone buzzed, pulling her attention from the serene view. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from Matt. Just saw the final results of the project. Incredible work, Maria. You're a true leader. Maria smiled, warmth spreading through her chest. She typed a simple response. Thank you, Matt. It was a team effort. But this time, the modesty wasn't hiding self-doubt. Maria knew she had played a significant role, and for once she allowed herself to feel proud. Shifting dynamics at home. From inside the apartment, the sound of laughter floated out onto the balcony. Maria's mother was chatting with her younger siblings, their voices light and carefree. Family dinners had changed recently. The worried glances her mother used to cast in her direction had been replaced by smiles and genuine conversations. Maria stood for a moment, leaning against the railing, letting the sound wash over her. She had worked hard to find this balance, not just in her career but in every aspect of her life. She had learned that success wasn't about constant perfection or relentless striving. It was about presence, connection, and living in alignment with what truly mattered. Looking back to move forward. As the sun dipped lower, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the doubts that had once consumed her, the moments of frustration and self-criticism, and the times she had questioned if she was enough. Those moments had shaped her, not as setbacks but as stepping stones to where she stood now. Maria's growth wasn't just about career milestones or accolades. It was about the quieter victories, the courage to admit when she didn't have the answers, the strength to ask for help, and the grace to forgive herself when things didn't go as planned. Embracing the present. Taking one last sip of her tea, Maria placed the cup down and picked up the folder. She flipped through the pages, scanning the notes and ideas she jotted down over the past week. The next project would be challenging, but she welcomed the challenge. It wasn't about proving herself anymore. It was about embracing opportunities to grow and create meaningful work. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Sophie, one of her team members. Maria, just wanted to say thank you for believing in me. I've learned so much from you. Maria felt a lump rise in her throat. Leading others had once been her greatest source of anxiety, but now it was one of her greatest joys. The start of something new. As the last light of the day disappeared, Maria took a deep breath. She didn't feel the need to rush into the future or dwell on the past. For the first time in a long time, she was fully present, grateful for the journey, proud of how far she had come, and excited for what lay ahead. This is it, she whispered to herself, a soft smile playing on her lips. This is the life I've been working for. Maria stepped inside, joining her family at the dinner table. The folder sat on the balcony, a symbol of what was next, but tonight she focused on being here now. Her story wasn't over, it was just beginning a new chapter, one she was ready to write with courage, purpose, and love. Write your own story. Maria's journey serves as a powerful reminder of the strength we all carry within us. She faced challenges, made bold decisions, and learned to trust in herself, ultimately transforming not just her career, but her entire life. Her story invites us to reflect. What would you do if you were in Maria's shoes? Could a small act of kindness or a leap of faith make a difference in your life, or in someone else's? Resilience and the power of choice. Life's obstacles are inevitable. But it's not the challenges themselves that define us, it's how we respond to them. Maria could have let fear and doubt control her, but instead she embraced uncertainty and found her true potential. What lesson from her story resonates with you the most? How might you face your own struggles differently after reading about her transformation? Share the inspiration. If Maria's story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends, family, or colleagues who could use a dose of inspiration. We all need reminders that we are capable of more than we realize. And if you believe in the power of stories to inspire change, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's spread messages of hope and empowerment together. Your story matters. We want to hear from you. How are you writing your next chapter? What small act of courage or kindness are you committing to today? Share your story with us in the comments and join the conversation. Together we can make a difference, one story at a time. Remember, your journey matters and the choices you make today shape the person you'll become tomorrow. So what's your next step?